welcome to McGowan's Canvas Miracles. Well, we have a special show for you today. I'm going to take a painting. Usually I have a guest on, and sometimes once in a while I just sit here and paint and we talk and have a little conversation. Every day I go out for sunrise. It's one of the things sort of sets my day in motion and gets me feeling like, okay, am I doing right? Am I doing wrong? People have meditation and prayers and all of these things that combine into this moment of time when the sunrise comes up. Started many years ago, and I think I've written about 3,000 poems over the time, and I use poetry to sort of set my mind. It gets me thinking about how I feel about situations and what's gone on in the day. Now, I read this poem before, but I wanted to sort of tell the story behind it today. We're going to work on a painting, build a road and some trees. It's a fall sort of day, so we had started one here one day with, I think it was the mayor. Somebody was in a hurry, and we didn't finish, so I'm going to finish it up for him. Maybe I'll drop it off to him, but we're going to put some fall leaves in and talk about the changing seasons we have in the heart and the mind. You start out thinking, what am I going to do with this picture? I can't, I have no talent, I don't know anything. But you have to start somewhere. You have to begin and lay something down. So that's what we're going to do with this painting. We're just going to lay down a road. So perspective is the main thing. We learn about art when we're young, kids, and everything has to disappear to a horizon, right? When you get up and you're looking at the sunrise, it disappears off into the distance. You go, oh, way back there, I can't see nothing. And everything's sort of faded back there. So let's start there. We'll say on the horizon line, we're going to take some kind of gray. We'll use a little Payne's gray, a little bit of this raw umber, and we'll just splash in some kind of trees in the background, some kind of horizon line. Now, what happens when they're in the distance? They're faded, so we don't want to see them. So we'll pat them out a bit, make them really, really far away. And as they come closer to us, they get a little bigger. So that's easy enough. Large to small. Lots of color to little color. These are some of the tricks of art that you start to learn along the way. Big to small, faded to detailed. Everything is about putting into practice little things you learn as you go. So never use your brush for a whole long time. Just throw some color on there, dab it out, let it dry. Let the painting sort of reveal itself to you and let your eyes start to focus on it. And then you say, okay, we got that side started. Let's get a little bit going over here. Maybe that's a little farther off in the distance. So we'll touch a little bit into there. And then start rubbing some of that color into the foreground. We want it to be a little bit dark. Just a little bit of ground, pull it up into the sky. So everything is moving off into the trees. And again, you can see as I get closer to where I am, I want more color. Don't touch it a whole lot, just a couple dabs here and there. Splash some things on. Fade things into the road. Now, one thing we want to do, we want to start maybe adding some light. One thing about this time of the year, it's, we can mark our calendars and clock, it gets dark early, but the light at sunset time is really amazing. The leaves start to just glow. They give a tone that you don't see at other times of the year. It's an amazing kind of deception as fall starts to happen. I don't know, maybe it's like aging. As we get older, we start to see things, the beauty of things, in a way that's more amazing than we did when we were younger. We're at such a speed, we're trying to go through life, just getting to the next thing done. And then we never quite get there because we're not slowing down to pay attention to what's all around us. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of sun. Just out here somewhere, maybe just above the hill. There's a little sun, maybe it's going to reflect on the road. So we'll put a little reflection on the road, a little bit of light coming down. And we're going to move around it. So whenever we have sunrise, we always have a bit of a yellow maybe happening around. That's a lemon yellow. I don't really like that. Let's go with more of a cadmium yellow. And again, I just touch it, throw it in, move it out into the clouds. Then I'm going to take a little bit of orange. I'm going to move around that yellow sun, see what we got there. And then we're going to blend it out a bit. Just push it into the sky. Let it start giving a little bit of light out to the sky. Look at that light, just trying to make its way out to heaven. Just like all of us, trying to find our way. Something good, something that makes us feel good every day. So, whatever I do in the top, I always got to go down, sort of put some of that reflection. So let's throw some of that into the road. Anytime you're painting, again, we're using the method of what's close to us is strong, what's far away is faded. So I put some faded light back there, but the light that I'm putting on the road will be stronger. So I'm not going to fade it out like I did with the lights up around the sky. All of a sudden, I got a little bit of life coming here. Amazing. It doesn't take much. And then once we've got that light in, what do we want to do? We want to sort of pull it up and down the road, blend it in a bit. Lovely. So I always have every week different guests talking about things that are happening in our city, emotional things for me. I'm always working with different groups trying to figure out how we can alleviate some of our poverty and some of our homelessness, make sure the basics are met. We get a lot of anger goes on in our city because, you know, in the areas where sin lies, I think it was Dofu said that never blame the sin that's happening in the darkness, blame those who create the darkness. So our job is not to reflect on how terrible people are doing or comment about, oh, this guy did that or that guy. We have systems in place for that. We have police and things to help, you know, if people are doing the wrong things. But what is our job? If it's not to complain, it's to alleviate. So how do we do that? We have to come up with solutions. So anytime we go to a meeting, it shouldn't be to complain that somebody did something wrong or something. We have places to report all that stuff. Our job is to come up with ideas amongst ourselves to make a difference, to make an impact, so that we can alleviate this suffering, so that we don't have these issues and the problems. If we bring light to the area, the darkness disappears. And that's the main goal. So think about that. Just as I said, like cleaning your room and trying to make your room straight. If you are somebody who's involved with helping, I think last week one of our guests talked about, they called it their friends. People have different references to what they call people living on the street or homeless that are struggling. And I like that. They said our friends are in need of this and that. Because that's who people are. No matter where they are in their situation, they're somebody's children, somebody's friends, somebody who's fallen through the cracks. But by the grace of God, it could be any of us at any time. Especially in today's economy with the way things go. There's a much more of a divide between those that have and those that have not. And as long as time immemorial, we've been struggling to sort of break that apart and figure out ways we could make a difference, you know. But complaining is never going to do it, you know, even about our own situation or about other people's situations. When did it ever make a difference? Complaining has never helped anything. So we move on from that and try to figure out what we can do that can impact things. So every time you put a piece on, you sort of set your painting, you lean back a bit, you look at it and go, okay, where am I going with this? I like the idea of the sun and the brightness, so I'm going to add a little more in. I really like how it makes the sky sort of come to life. Before we add the trees, I'm going to take and add a little bit of light, a little bit more of that yellow around the sun. Just a bit, touching it up. And you don't need much to make a difference. One day I was driving along the highway, I'd been going back and forth out west and working like a lot of people do. And I got thinking, how am I, how can I make a difference? And I wish I'd win the lottery because I would change the world and I would do all these good things, just like everybody says to themselves. And I thought, well, how can I make a difference? And all of a sudden I got this idea that, you'll get opportunities if you sort of pay attention to them. So I don't know where these voices come from or ideas or thoughts that we hear. We as humans been arguing for years about, God inside of us or spiritual things throughout the air or just consciousness and all of it, trying to figure it out for ourselves. So I listened to it deeply. And to me, that's the way God talks to me, I guess. That's the way I see it. So I driving along, all of a sudden the radio comes on and this beautiful song comes on, and it's this Lauren Daigle woman. She's singing to me. And You Say, I think was the name of the song. And I started listening to that and I thought, what a beautiful song. And I think it's Adele. But I find out later it's not. It's this Life Radio. And I get home and my son mentions to me that this Life Radio is looking to promote something. So I end up joining this group of people and promoting the radio. I know nothing about radio at the time. I'm kind of like, what's going to happen here? But I like the idea of making things into something better, bigger, and inspiring. And so I thought, well, maybe this is my opportunity. I can do something with this deal. So the next day I'm at this local place where I go to eat all the time. And Nelson, the owner, he says to me, Rob, what are you doing these days? And I said, well, I'm joining this radio station, and I think we're going to have the mayor down, and you're going to, we're going to buy him breakfast. Well, you're going to buy him breakfast, I said. And we're going to do a radio show right here live on air and find out what's going on in our city and see if we can make an impact. And I said, and you're going to pay for it. And he thought, okay. To my surprise, he thought that was great. So I went back and I told the people at the station about it, and to say the least, I got that job. And we started having the show, and it became a good hit, and people really loved it and started tuning into it to find out what was in our city. So from that, I sort of moved forward, realizing, what people want to hear, what other people are doing. So I joined this men's group helping out in a place called Village of Hope, which is an amazing name, where people were going through drug addiction and getting over all the things they had done in life. So I started working with them, and what can I do? I don't know much about their story, but I said I can listen to your story, and listening is where we learn and pay attention. So they started telling me their stories one by one, and amazing stories about overcoming the worst things in society and the troubles that they go through. And I asked one of them to put it on air, and he was kind of shy. He said, no, I can't put that on air, Rob. But I finally convinced him that his story was, the story people needed to hear. Because, it's easy for people to go and complain about people and do stuff, but unless you're going through addictions, whatever they might be, and it could be gambling, it could be alcohol, it could be whatever it is that's pulling you away from the best that you can be, getting over that is not easy. It's a struggle and it's a fight. And, people that are hurting, they want to disappear from that hurt. So sometimes it seems like an easy escape. It never is, of course. But he told this story, and it was an amazing story about a young fella who it was getting high with or doing his particular drugs with, whatever it might have been. And the fella had passed out. So he decided to steal his wallet. I think I've told this story before, but I want to sort of show in a painting when we don't know where we're going, but if we start putting something on canvas and telling the story, the painting itself will show us, just like life will show us. And listening to this story, I got very emotional. And I started to say, okay, let's see how this story affects people and pay attention to it. So one of the poems I wrote one morning, it was, the light creeps in softly, touching the night, and the hills forgot to awake. The world becomes itself again. sometimes we need to reset, and just watching sunset can do that for us. So sunset, sunrise, whatever you get out a chance, just take time to go down and for a minute just peacefully watch it and let your mind sort of reset and realize everything, the sun goes down, the sun comes up, sun goes down. I once wrote, somebody said, oh, I've only got 20 years left to live. I said, well, that's 10,000 sunrises and sunsets at least. So if you look at it in that way, you can broaden your horizons to a whole different perspective. Now, earlier I'd read a poem, but I wanted to sort of, I'd read just a chunk of it about a young man who, actually was an older man. I shouldn't say young man. He was probably maybe in his 60s, I guess. And he was struggling, and I told you that story at the beginning of the show, but I wanted to read you the whole poem because it was it's always meant a lot to me. And I'm just going to go from the very beginning. And it says, I stood before a man without a home. His beard was like the wild roots of the earth. His eyes trembling, his body wrapped in the dust of 10,000 roads. I asked him with no judgment in my voice, only curiosity and care, where do you live, friend? And where is your home? He answered, not with complaint, not with bitterness of fate, but with a voice low, woven in the wind, he uttered, home is where the heart is. He shook not from cold, but from memory. A sorrow song escaped his mouth, his words like falling leaves, once golden, now void of color. Oh, you towers of glass and marble, he said. He spoke not of rents, nor roofs, nor keyholes, nor kitchens, but the places of dreams, and yes, he had lived there. And in that place she held me, he said, and in that fear, it was gone. And I belonged, as surely as the stars belong to the sky, as surely as the rivers belong to the sea. Ah, he said, that was a good year. Not marked by calendars or clock, not written down in ledgers or files, but carved into the bone of the soul, into the breath between heartbeats. And again, he said, not to me, not to the wind, not to the passing cars, not to the indifferent city, but maybe he was talking to God when he said, home is where the heart is. So it was an amazing story, and we can learn from everybody that we come across in life. If we just listen, there's something in there that's special. And his mind in that moment, he didn't feel pain and suffering, he felt great joy. So whenever you need to, pull from those memories. And what does that tell you? That means in the present today, you got to make those memories. We can spend the day suffering and saying, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. Or we can go out and make a memory. Whatever's possible is for one person is possible for everybody. And set your dreams up. I wanted to be a painter. I was a painter my whole life. I struggled with it. I tried markets. I did things. And I made a small living here and there, and I did things. But I always wanted to paint. It was always my dream. But work got in the way. I always had to work, or I had to, family to raise. And there was always stuff that seemed to get in the way of my dreams. And one day, I woke up and my family was all grown, and I found myself alone and working at a job that I liked, but it wasn't fulfilling that dream. And I said to myself, how can I make my dreams come true? I don't suggest this to everybody, but I decided at that moment I was going to do nothing except move towards my dreams. So I went in and I talked to my boss at the radio station, and decided that I was going to work towards an art dream and not work for the radio station as a paid job anymore. And which was great for them, because the things that they were going through, and we just, too many staff, even though they loved having me around. So we tried to figure out what can we do, because it's an important show and it helps so many people. And I said, well, you give me that room over there and let me use that to start a paint class. I had no idea if a paint class would work or not work, but it was an idea. You know what happened the next morning? I woke up excited to go to work. Had no pay coming in, nothing. Wasn't quite sure how I was going to do it. But I went into work and I got the room ready, and I thought, okay, how would I paint here? What would I teach? I started writing down lessons, and I spent hours. I was 20 hours trying to figure out how would I teach somebody and how would I make it interesting to them. And I thought about all the philosophy I'd written, or not written, but read from Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, and the things I'd read in the Bible, and all the things about changing one's life. And I started writing that down into a painting. How would I talk about that? Then I put an ad up, got a couple students and started from there. Next thing I know, the students loved it so much, they started coming back more and more. And they always still to this day tell me it was never for the painting. It was always because the class motivated you to do something more, to go above. And that inspired me even more. So every day when I get up for work now I teach a school here and I teach a school in another city. I have a radio show and a TV show, which we'll get into. All these things sort of amalgamated together from following my dreams and pursuing what I wanted to do out of life. I wanted to help people and sleep good at night, regardless of the cost. And I had no great fortune or things to give out, just myself and what little bit of money I had. And I started working with that, with the homeless and different organizations, and doing stories about that particular type of item while doing the art. Well, through that I met people and they started to come do the art classes, and got inspired. And one day a lady called me to ride a bicycle across from Montreal to PEI. I hadn't ridden a bike since I was a little kid. And I was like, no, I can't do that. And I'll never forget, she told me, she said, oh, well, God told me you're going to do it. I said, well, God didn't tell me. I've told this story a dozen times and still surprises me to this day. And I hung up the phone, and that little voice, that you hear, that you wander around, says, well, you said you want to make a difference and everything's on the other side of failure. Can't you go fail at that? I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I called them up and I started to do that. And that particular dream, when I went out, I failed miserably. At first I didn't bring gear. I was riding across. I was fumbling, hardly making it through the day. I was exhausted, passing out in my tent, and didn't know what I was doing. And a few guys helped me. And the next day was pouring rain, one of the biggest storms we'd ever had. I didn't bring rain gear or anything to really make a difference. I just put on a garbage bag. I threw it over my head. I started filming, telling them, this is what I've done. I'm kind of a dummy. I've messed up. I didn't bring gear. But this is the story. I'm out trying to raise funds for these tiny homes and help homeless people. And that's it. I started telling the story. And you know what happened? People could relate. They started seeing all the things I was doing, saying, oh, that would probably be me. I would probably be failing at that. And all of a sudden, donations started coming in and making a huge impact. And I got through that particular deal, and I was driving home one day, and one of the producer who produces the show, I was talking to him. He wanted to do a documentary about riding across on the bike. And we were talking, I was saying I'd like to do a show, and he thought, well, you could do like an interview. Like I was talking about a painting show, like a Bob Ross kind of show. And I told him about doing stuff on the radio, and through collaboration and ideas that he had floated to me and what I was thinking about, we came up with this great show that seemed to be able to tell the city's story. So I was able to bring in the mayor, I bring in MPs and MLAs, I bring in the people working on the streets, and we do a painting together. So I'm still living my dream and doing my stuff while helping the community and feeling good about life. And that's what I mean. And none of it is about finances or get-rich-quick schemes or any of that. All of it is about finding your potential, the things that you'd like to do. Just like this painting. We just go around and we go sticking some leaves and branches in. When you're putting a branch in a tree, remember, everybody has this thing where they start painting these V's on trees. Trees don't have those kind of things. They come out with long stems from the back and points coming down and disappearing to nothing, and you're just starting to throw them in. Different trees and then branches off of those. As thin as you can get it. If you water down your paint, you'll be able to get it really thin. And I'm thinking, okay, so what am I going to do with this? They're a little thicker down here, so maybe I'll start thickening them up. And when you look at a painting, you think, oh, there's so many thousands of branches and twigs. But if you're not thinking about getting everyone perfect, like sitting there going, oh, I got this branch and I'm getting it so perfect, and you're just throwing them on, just letting them be a technique. Just like life, when you're going through it, some will be fat, some will be thick, who cares? Just like real life branches. You make a mistake, you can cover it up, hide it, put something beautiful over top of it. That's what I like to do. See, nothing to it. See how I got a fat, ugly one up there? Who cares? We'll put some leaves over it later. When your brush is going fat like that, roll it out, get it down to something thin. Light touch. The lighter the touch, the thinner the branch. And as you move in close, thicken it up. Add a little more paint on this side because it's closer to us. So thicken up the branches. Maybe we'll put a little raw umber in here. Just give a little brown to the trees, just to break it up. Look at that. Put a little bit of light over in here. Now, I'm not getting fussy or trying to be real perfect. This is just a fall scene. I want the painting to give me something. We can later put details in and be real specific about certain areas of a branch or tree. But in general, we just want to get the painting blocked in. So now we're going to take maybe a rough brush. Start adding a little bit of, maybe some mist here. Let's add some mist. Maybe there's a mist coming up. Working its way up the path. So take and soften up that mist. Just sort of roll its way off the brush and work its way through the trees and up the path. Some of that stuff that you painted in behind will start to show through. So you always want to be putting it on light, letting some things show through. So we want to do the reflection. We'll say a little bit of the yellow's coming on the mist. Simple. Just take a little dab of yellow on your soft brush. Dab some yellow into your mist. Easy as that. A little bit of the orange we want to come. Grab a little bit of the orange. Softly mist the sky. We have no idea what's going to happen. We just paint. Happy accidents, as they say. Have some fun with it. Now every tree, we want to get some of the colors reflecting of the whole sky. So we'll grab a little bit of blue. And I'm just going to paint a little bit of blue reflections into the trees. Not hard at all. Now we always want to be on the side where the light is coming. So if we're painting on the inside of this side of the trees, we want to paint on the inside of the trees on the other side as well. And enjoy your work. Maybe we got a little bit of grass starting to show up on the bottom of the screen. So let's throw in a little grass. And I always like to mix colors. I don't like to use things direct. So I'll take some yellow. I don't know if you can see this, but I'll grab some yellow and a little bit of Payne's gray. And I'll make my greens that way. So I'm going to put a little bit of grass down at the bottom. Remember, as it goes away, it gets smaller. As it's close, it's bigger. So we'll throw some glass up along the road. Just a little bit. We're not going to get too hung up on perfection here. Dark and light. So I always grab the Payne's gray and I push it off to one side. What this does, it starts to open up light. So it's like one side is hitting the light and one side is hitting the darkness, just like life. I think it was Carl Jung used to talk about the shadow side of people. We're all sort of creating this facade in life. We want to show ourselves as, oh, this happy and loving and wonderful person. That's the one everybody sees. But then we get home and we're depressed and we're sad and we're struggling and we're hurting and we're hiding that. So we're always hiding our shadow side. I try to avoid that. I try to share as much of I can about, when I'm going through dark times and stuff in my poetry and talking with people and having the people that struggle, we have them here as well, and what they're going through and how they feel about things. Not to judge anybody, just to get an idea, because it's only in conversation do we ever start to understand how to make a difference in this world. And that's the goal. Have a good conversation where we can listen to each other and find those things that, the common ground where we can make a difference and an impact. So shadows, what do shadows do? Shadows bring the light forward. So I'm all about the shadows. Even add more in, look at that. We're going to add some dark shadows to this. What you're going to see is going to make a huge difference when we get to doing the leaves and lighten them up. You might want to use a palette knife when we're in the closest sections, just to really add some color. And what a palette knife does is it takes away your desire to rub out, to paint, to keep making it better. Because every time you touch the canvas, you're messing up your painting. It's confusing, but it's true. Because each time we touch the color, it loses pigment. And we don't want to lose pigment. We want to have lots of color and lots of vibrancy. So using a palette knife is sort of a way to get you to move away from that. As we move back, of course, things disappear into the light. So practice that at home using a little palette knife. Now we're going to maybe add a little tone of bushes back here. Sort of just add something so when we start bringing the leaves in, they got somewhere to go. And I like to clean out my brush and work its way down. Strong at the front. I almost made a mistake. See, I started to go back over it, but I don't want to touch those colors. I want to stay out of there. So I go grab some new color here, throw it up, and as I move back, don't touch it anymore. Just get away from it. Just let the color sort of fade into the painting. Clean your brushes as you go, because a lot of times I get painting away and I go to paint something and there was leftover color on my brush and I make a big mistake and I put a smear through it. No big deal. Just wipe it off with some water and enjoy the process. Now, these old house brushes, you don't need no special $50 brush. This is an old house brush. I like it stiff and messed up. I'm going to take a little bit of green and start putting in some nice tone of leaves, just touching in the horizon here. Just a bit. Seeing if I like the color. And again, I look back at it and say, okay, do I like that? Yeah, it kind of lights up. Looks like the path is lighting up there. So we'll put some more of them in. Like that color. I'm going to move a bit more up here. Now it's my chance to hide some of those fat, ugly branches. So I had a fat, ugly branch up here. I say, okay, let's get rid of that. Over here we got some smaller trees. They're a little bit more in the distance. So I'm going to put a little bit above that. And see, before you know it, you start to see something that's happening. And we might not want the exact same color all through because it's the fall. So what are we going to do? Let's go add some orange. Maybe I got a beautiful orange sort of section here. There's one orange tree always pops out. You ever notice that? You're driving along the highway and the orange tree stuck in amongst all the yellow seems to really stand out. So let's throw that in and see if we can get that to pop. Just a little bit of orange. Nice. Maybe there's a smaller one over here. And as you see, we're already starting to get this lovely painting. It's got light coming in, but it's the darkness, which we're going to add more to. And one of the things I think about sometimes, you know, I watch sunrise and it's there in front of us, but the sunrise is within us too. So that's sort of the poem I was working on. It's the sunrise is not only over the earth, but within us too. Each day a small resurrection of the heart. So this here, what we're working on now is maybe we're going to start. If you ever notice the New Brunswick landscape, it's full of these birch trees and they have vibrant yellows. So we're going to put a lot of yellow in the background so our greens and oranges stand out. So when you first start putting it on, you want it sort of pale. As always, the same technique that we used for everything, faded in the background, strong in the foreground. So we're fading out a little bit in the background. We throw a little yellow faded trees in there. We can even dab it with our Kleenex, something so that there's no color. We don't want that back there. We want the suggestion. Impressionist paintings are about suggesting what the artist is going to see. So then we're going to move to some more colors, and I always like to mix. I like to add a little white into my cadmium yellow, just to create that sort of sparkle on the leaves. So now we got, so the pale behind stands out, and the leaves start to set up on top of the trees. Now I didn't like that particular brush. It was giving me these sort of long, elongated leaves, which I don't really like. So let's try a smaller brush. We'll do the same thing. Adding our yellow, a little bit of white. We'll just touch them, just touch. There, that's a little better. I'm going to build up some leaves on top. And just slowly dabbing around, moving our brush back and forth, creating a little texture. You got these beautiful leaves. So anywhere you got a branch that's sort of sticking out when you're whipping off those sticks, you can go in and eliminate those now. So in some places you can eliminate the white altogether and just go in and add pure yellow. And again, I'm trying not to hit the same spot more than once, because then the color, the vibrancy will go away. So if you look here between the contrast of these leaves and these leaves on these trees, this is the beginning stage where it's faded away, soft and just sort of rubbed out. And then by having that, we have something to tack on top. Then it creates layers, depth, so we look through the trees. And that's the whole idea, is to create depth. This is just a simple painting, a couple of dabs. I'm not putting any detail in. I'm not specializing in any particular thing. After, what I might do is I might go in and add some people walking up the path or tell a story or something. But at this point, all I want to do is get some beautiful fall leaves in. Now other artists, there's different ways you can put leaves in. Some artists will take a round brush and they'll just smash the leaves in circles. So they might go like this and just have circle leaves, just creating a small, tiny millions of leaves just all over your tree. You can have a variance of leaves. You have some small ones in amongst the big ones. Maybe you take a little bit of orange, start blending some of the orange, just touching into leaves. You know how some leaves are starting to turn, some got a bit of orange in and a bit of yellow, so maybe some section of the tree got that. And that's all just a preference. What brush gives you a mark that you like that looks kind of like a leaf? Maybe you turn your brush sideways. So maybe here I'm going to put some bigger leaves in. I'm going to turn my brush sideways and pull on it a little bit. Hit, pull, hit, pull. All creating your own technique, your own style. And that's all painting is, developing a technique that works for you, and you become unique. You'll be able to look at paintings after a while and say, oh, that was painted by this person. I can tell by the way the leaf is pulled or the leaf is circled, or, you know, every artist has their particular styles and habits that they form, and you will too. And a lot of artists, especially my classes, I see when they're starting out, they're always like, wow, I don't like this. I don't like the way the leaves turn out. It doesn't look like his, or it doesn't. What they don't realize is that's what you want. You don't want your art to look like somebody else's. You want something unique, stands out. I had this friend who was an artist, and he was an amazing artist, but he could never get art that was interesting. He just, you know, he could just copy somebody else's pictures, which I do a lot of. I see something, I copy it, and I'm trying to learn from that. But developing your own style is a real hard habit. Like, it's because you have to learn to live with your mistakes. And your mistakes are what make you unique to everybody else. Because you do something and you think, that's kind of interesting. So he started painting these oversized people, and they all looked like bubbles. Their legs bubbled, and their bodies bubbled, and their heads bubbled. They were the strangest things, but he had done one, and he just loved the way they looked. So he started sort of blending these bubbled people together, and he created all this flow of bubbling people sitting on an audience or walking down a road. And somehow, mistakenly, through creating these people and practicing doing them, he ended up getting this unique style that developed into something that people, they came from all over to buy his paintings because they wanted one of those, they stood out in the crowd. Art doesn't have to be spectacularly, like the best drawer, or graphic technique. What it needs to do is tell the story in a way that nobody else has told it before, a way that you can tell it in your own voice. So when you're painting, that's what we want to learn. That's what I try to teach, is where's your voice? What is it that you're trying to accomplish here? So anytime a student shows me something, they say, oh, this didn't come out right. I say, well, let's emphasize what you did wrong. Let's take a look at it. So maybe they were putting big fat leaves in. Maybe they were saying, they couldn't control their brush. They were going along and they were smashing these big, heavy leaves into their tree, and they didn't know. And they were saying, oh, mine doesn't look like yours. It's not pretty and elegant. And I said, no, but you got these beautiful leaves. What if we emphasized it? What if we took a little dark, sort of made your leaf stand out, give it some shape? How about we try that, see what happens? All of a sudden, they get these lily pad looking leaves. It was an accident, but they have something to them that makes them unique. The Greeks once had all their sculptors bring in sculptors. They said they want to give a prize for the greatest sculpture that was the most symmetrical, perfect eyes, perfect shape, perfect nose, everything in perfect proportions. And once they got them there, they realized they were the most ugly, unrealistic statues they had ever seen in life. It was just, they smashed them all to pieces and they had a great celebration. And it was a freedom because they realized it's the character of our fault and our mistakes, and that's what makes life, the imperfect nose, the one eye smaller than the other, the hairline that goes a certain way. Everything about us gives us a unique look that nobody else has. And if we take away those things and we give you perfect hair and perfect eyes, and then everybody looks the same and there's no character. The next time you go to play some music or do a canvas or whatever it is you want to do, it is possible. It takes time, a little effort, and it also takes the patience to say, I can make mistakes and not be upset with yourself. Most of the people that struggle in my class are the people that get upset with themselves the most. They say, oh, this just doesn't look the way I want it. Whereas other people just keep going at it and they get better and better. And they just, that's all it is. Because it's a journey. It's not where you are at the end. I think there's an old poem, Ithaca. I don't know it off of heart, but he basically talks about Ithaca being a place at the end of the road, somewhere down the road. You go on this travel and you get to see the great pyramids and you get to see Egypt and you try all the perfumes and you try all the different scents and colors and flavors of the world and the different ways people cook. And when you get there, the place you were going to that your dreams set you out for isn't quite like what you thought. It isn't so special, but you shouldn't be upset because the place you're going to doesn't matter. What that place did for you, and you should be grateful for and thankful for, is that it sent you on the journey. You wouldn't have gone through the motions of trying different foods and trying new places and meeting new people if you hadn't been setting out for your dream. So your dream is something that sets you on a path that gets you moving, doing the things you enjoy to do. I enjoy painting. I enjoy doing this talk show. I enjoy doing the radio. I enjoy helping the community. All of these things come because I move towards a dream. I think in the Bible quote, it talks about, she said, say to the mountain, it'll move. So anything is possible is what really the quote is saying. He's saying, if your mountain is this dream, to be on TV, or your mountain's to be a painter, or your mountain's to be a good father and make sure your kids have everything. Whatever your dream is, I don't know what it might be. We all, depending on our upbringing and our premise, we have different dreams. That is possible. And it's all in our mind. And everything we do is in our mind. So each day, and as you can see, I kind of mixed here. I tried to combine some of the dotted leaves of one style against some of this heavy leaves in the other style. Just see where it goes. And then maybe let's grab a fan brush, see what we can do with that. So maybe there's a little bit of some berries or something down here. Some kind of berries. So we're going to put some little stem berries and shake them around. It's my forest. I can put whatever I want. See my dreams start to happen here. And that's one thing too about building a canvas. It sure is fun to just sort of lay your dreams out, how you want to see things happen. Get the light going. Even add some more. Let's add some real thick, real light in here. Why not? Let's take our big globs of black, start putting an impasto kind of layer on, really making it dark at the front, emphasizing the shadow. Say we want to bring that light out a little more. I'm just going to add some more leaves over here before I do it. Let's add a little bit of light leaves. So if I want to emphasize the leaves that we already put on, how do we emphasize? We got to embrace our shadow, embrace our darkness, because we all have it. And that's what nature is showing us. The shadow is how you understand where the light is. So if I start putting the shadow in here, shading out some of this tree, what does it do? Start to let that light start to really light up and show us the way. There's an old Tao Te Ching poem. It's 81 verses, I think, in the Tao Te Ching, and it says that in the very first couple of lines, it says, once you know the way, you've lost the way. I always wondered what they meant by that. So once we decide something is it, and this can be anything from the Big Bang Theory to our emphasis of what God is, all the things that we think are it change with our perception and with new knowledge. And as we gather knowledge, we realize, oh, well, maybe I had that wrong. So I never am set in saying, this is how it is. I know exactly how it is. Once you do that, you've lost your way. You always want to be open to ideas, to what people tell you, and weigh that against what you've seen with your own eyes, you know? Whether it's the news, whether it's TikTok things or videos or all these things that we're all engulfed in now, and they sort of suck us down these rabbit holes. What is the truth? You know, you hear something, they say, oh, the world's falling apart and all these things are happening, blah, blah, blah. But if you look around, are all your friends falling apart, or are they not falling apart? Is everybody doing okay? Are they not doing okay? Is your world falling apart? Is there more jobs left? Like, balance what is actually happening with what you're being told that's happening, and making a difference in our lives and the people around us. Because once we do that, the whole world opens up. We get new friends and new things going on that we never even dreamed were possible. I'm going to add in a few more orange highlights here because I really want to emphasize this orange tree over here. And we're going to put in some bigger leaves just to say that this is the special spot. I hope everybody enjoys the show, and make sure to comment or let us know. Put some messages up on our posts, or on we load our show up to YouTube. If you watch it live on Rogers, or if you see it on YouTube, or go online and maybe make a message and let us know what you'd like to see, or if you have a special group that you'd like to have on. We'd love to hear from you. And we want to thank you for coming into McGowan's Canvas Miracles today and spending some time with us. I hope you enjoyed the painting and the time we shared today.